Welcome back. So, in the formulation that I gave you, we talked about energy approach for calculating the elastic constant. So, let me first connect you back to and remind you the first law of thermodynamics. So, if you look at this slide, which is a very nice review, that we start with the first law where du over dt, which is the internal energy, is summation of work and the heat. And as you know, internal work is related with the applied force. So, you are looking at x dash, the velocity multiplied by force. And the second law said that ds over dt, which is the entropy term, is greater than delta q over T, which is the heat, which is the Clausius inequality that we talked about in the thermodynamics section. So, if you look at dissipation rate is related to dt over d, which is the diffusion, is equal to Tds over dt minus delta q greater than 0. So, we are using this dissipation rate. So, now in terms of heat, delta q, that becomes equal to delta u over delta t, which is the change in the internal energy minus the work. So, if you look at the dissipation rate after consideration of first law of thermodynamics, now we will look at the dissipation of some of these particles comes down to what we call Helmholtz free energy, where F is equal to U internal energy minus T s. So, if you look at this is defined as the energy of Helmholtz type, and that Helmholtz free energy is related with the elastic deformation. So, D is deformation in this case, not diffusion. Remind that yourself is that this is deformation. So, the change in the deformation is equal to 0 in some cases elastic deformation. Then in that case delta W minus dF over dt is equal to 0, assume only internal energy changes. Then work is equal to the force multiplied by the velocity. So, if you look at this and rearrange it, now you understand that expanding the equation du over dt and using the differentiation for du over dx and dx over dt, we are able to get Fz force is equal to df over dx and Fc is equal to du over dx with strain energy density, now psi defined as F over V, which is the force over entire volume that you are looking at, u over V. So, sigma ij becomes d sigma psi, which is the strain energy density, and that is over, we are looking at the strain. So, if you look at, if you have this strain energy density and differentiate with terms of strain, then you get sigma 1 1, and that is where IJKL is the strain energy over, we are looking at the two terms that we described. So, I just wanted to make sure that we close the loop on the thermodynamics that I showed you earlier as the term for CIJKL, which is essentially coming from the Helmholtz free energy, and this dF over dt, that is where the Helmholtz free energy connects with the deformation energy. So, if you start again, just revise quickly, we first define the Helmholtz free energy as the difference between u minus Ts, and with that Helmholtz free energy F, we define if the deformation is 0. So, dW minus dF over dt, Helmholtz free energy is 0. Now, if you multiply velocity with the Helmholtz free energy Fc, now you are able to come back from Helmholtz free energy, which defines the strain energy density, and that is where Helmholtz free energy over volume is the strain energy density. And when you take the differentiation of Helmholtz free energy with respect to strain, then you get the stress. I think that is the basic concept which is used quite a bit in molecular dynamics. So, now let me quickly tell you about some of the crystal structure, because when you do molecular dynamics, you always have to come back with the initial position, and they are dependent on the lattice structure, or what we call the crystal structure. So, we start with the face centered cubic. So, if you look at on your slide, this is a typical face centered cubic crystal. You can see this is a cubic shape, but on each face there is one particle. You can see all 4 particles, that is where it is called face centered cubic. If you look at many metals like copper, they are a face centered cubic, aluminum. So, if you look at here, they also have surface structure of FCC. So, if you look at different surfaces, so 100 surface or 0110 surface or 111 surface, they essentially show you how the particles will be looked at. So, think about a 3-dimensional crystal in front of you, which has all these atoms in it. If you cut a plane 1 0 0 or 1 1 1, which is this face. So, 1 0 0 is top, the side face is 1 1 0, and if you take a diagonal that becomes 1 1 1. So, if you look at the Bravais convention of defining crystal lattice at 1 0 0, 1 1 0, 1 1 1, you will know these are the faces of the crystal, and Bravais defines that very well. So, if you look at one of the standard references like Kittle's solid state physics book, all these Bravais lattices are defined there. But good to know that FCC is a very clearly defined structure, then, and that is where you also have slip direction planes in FCC. So, these are the direction where the crystal is going to break, because these are the slips where the slips can happen. So, there are planes which are lower energy where the slip can happen, those are called FCC crystals, slip planes. So, if you look at half 1 1 0 is a slip plane, glide planes are 1 1 1. So, this is where you look at these planes and understand the slip planes are very important, because that is where the failure most often will occur, and all these dislocations will go to the slip planes and they will dissipate their energy. Without going into too much detail, now let us look at body centered cubic. So, the reason it is called body centered cubic, because there are all these atoms around, but at the center of this cell, unit cell as they call in crystallography, there is a one atom at the middle of it, which is center of the. So, if you look at the mass, center of mass is body centered in this case. So, this is where BCC happens. So, for BCC again you have different kinds of faces, and body centered cubic lattice at different, you are looking at how the charges are defined. So, there is a lot of body centeredness in this in terms of both mass as well as electrical charge for those BCC structure. And if you look at iron is a BCC structure, while copper is FCC structure. Moving forward, we can also look at crystal structure which is hexagonal close packed like zinc. In this case, and as you know, we have been looking at ice, and in room temperature ice is hexagonal close packed HCP. So, that is the structure where you can see hexagon is created by these 6 atoms, and then there is a cylinder, and in between there is another cubical model. So, if you look at this, this is hexagonal close packed, and so if you look at this is the central cell and this is the hexagonal, you combine them together it becomes HCP, and this is where you look at the zinc structure. So, if you look at this is where you will put initial position in HCP. So, if you look at the potential function in crystal structure, the regular packing and order of the atoms into crystal is closely related with the potential details, and that is where if you remind yourself Lennard-Jones, we said that R 0 is the place where the force of the atoms is 0. This is where the lattice positions are. So, that is how lattice positions get connected with the Lennard-Jones function, and that is where the potential functions are created. So, this is where once you have that, and if you look at that CIJKL using our formulation of Helmholtz free energy and the differentiation of that with respect to the strain, we can define in certain directions all the sigma 1 1, sigma 1 2, and also look at in different directions. So, if you look at in strain in 1 0 0 direction, which is principal direction, this is the stress strain curve, and this is very idealized. So, you are looking at Lennard-Jones, and you are then looking at strains in 1 0 1 0. So, this is the second y direction, and if you look at the tangent modulus of that and tangent modulus in xx and yy. So, you are looking at these tangential forces and modulus. So, this is where you can look at and derive these terms. Now, I want to quickly take you back to isobaric ensemble and MD calculation, because you do need pressure calculation from the virial, which we discussed here. This is the kinetic term, this is the force term, this is the P, which is also we look at as the stress, because the pressure over certain area, this is where we can define the stress in terms of the pressures. And so, if you look at the tensor with the flexible cell as we had looked at earlier, then if you look at the physical coordinate, L is the stress tensor, or this is the tensor for the shape of the cell. So, you have 3 dimensions of the cell, and you can look at all that. in terms of stress and strain. And so, with that formulation that we had looked at earlier, I just want you to take back and remind it, so that you can calculate the stress tensor pi in terms of the exponential of these different terms with the stress and strain and Helmholtz free energy. With that, we are now able to calculate the TPN, temperature, pressure and number ensemble, which is Parinawala-Rahman, and that leads to stress strain property calculation in different direction. Here you can see in 100, 111 and 110, and remember, these are the slip planes. So, this really combines all these ideas about stress strain, and because we are now getting at the end of our course, I wanted to make sure that you are able to not only look at thermodynamic, but also mechanical properties of the system, and also use correlation functions of different kind. So, you can now understand transport coefficient. Now, you are in a very solid footing here to be a good molecular dynamist. Thank you.